Shalom. I am Rabbi Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. Today and tonight are Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first of the Hebrew month of Adar. Happens to be Adar Sheni, the second month, because this is a leap year. This is the month, and especially in this part of Adar, in the second Adar this year, where the holiday of Purim occurs. 2 weeks from now will be Purim. Our sages tell us that when the month of Adar starts, we should increase our joy. So I want to talk about what does that mean to increase our joy, and what is joy? You know, if you look at the dictionary, Webster's dictionary, one of the definitions of joy says as follows. It says, the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires. And that sounds, the first reading of it sounds pretty narcissistic, that you're only concerned with yourself. What does the Purim story tell us? First of all, as a Jewish people, we are commanded to serve God with joy. We're told, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. You should serve your Lord with joy. When the tochacha is mentioned in the Torah, the curses that will befall the Jewish people, it says, why did these things happen? Ki lo ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, because you didn't serve God with joy. What does that mean? First of all, to understand that, we have to look at the Purim story and see what Purim story is all about. The Purim story, which is not just a historical story, as everything we learn from Torah gives us a lesson for today. The Purim story happens today as well. When you have, and you had at the time of the Purim story, you had a wicked person, Haman, who wanted to destroy the Jewish people. And he was able to entice the king to issue a decree allowing him on a certain day to annihilate all of the Jewish people throughout the kingdom. And at that time, the kingdom of Persia pretty much controlled the world. So he received permission to annihilate the Jews of the world. We know that from this story, after the king got angry with his previous wife and had her killed, he went searching throughout the kingdom to try to find another wife, and finally he found Esther. Esther never told the king that she was Jewish. Now Esther's uncle, who really adopted her, some say was actually married to her, was Mordechai, who was a high-ranking member, basically the leader of the Jewish people. So we have an interesting situation. Haman is so bloated, he thinks he's the with-all and the end-all. He wants everybody to bow to him, as you would bow to some type of a holy object. Mordechai refused to bow to him. The Netivot Shalom asks, how could Mordechai refuse to bow to Haman, knowing that he had this decree against the Jewish people and that his act of refusal and of obstinacy might cause great harm to the Jewish people. And the Netivot Shalom answers that no, Mordechai wasn't concerned, because Mordechai knew that even though the decree was signed and sealed by the king, and some interpret that as God himself signing the decree and wanting to kill the Jewish people for their sins, nonetheless, Mordechai knew, and he had total bitachon, total trust that God would not destroy his people. So he wasn't worried about that. What is this total trust? This leads us to the concept of emunah and bitachon, faith and trust. Emunah in God, faith in God, means that, yes, God's in this world, he's created the world, but is he involved with us individually? Bitachon, trust in God, means that I know that God did not only create the world, but he has an active part in it and an active part in my life as well. So Mordechai had this bitachon to know that God would never destroy him. So what is the true level of joy? The true level of joy, as the Netivot Shalom and many others point out, is to be satisfied with your lot in life. The sages in the Ethics of the Fathers say, Ezehu Asher, who is wealthy, hasumech bechelko, he who is satisfied with his lot in life. What that means, that whatever God does, as the Gemara tells us, called Avid Rachmana Latav Avid, that everything that God does is for the good, is for our personal good, even if we don't understand it at the time, even though it feels painful. If we understand that, that is the combination of emunah and bitachon, faith and trust in God, that God will help you. So by increasing our joy, as the sages told us to do, what we are doing is we are manifesting this concept of how important it is to recognize and to be satisfied with what God gives us. Not to want what somebody else has, but to be happy with what we have, no matter how painful it might be or how great it might be, to be satisfied, to understand that God is giving us not necessarily what we desire, as the definition was I just read from the dictionary, not fulfilling our desires, but fulfilling our needs. And there's a big difference. Sometimes we desire things that maybe aren't for our well-being. God always gives us what our well-being is, what our needs are for our well-being. And the sages tell us that Purim, initiated by the month of Adar, which we're starting now, this is a great time when a Jew should be happy with his lot in life, because he understands that everything that God does is for the good, and he understands that God is with us. Imonochi Batsora. God is with us in our pain, in our trouble. We're not alone. We're not alone in doing this. And the recognition that God is with us, that gives us the power to overcome any situation. One last word about Hasumech Bechelko, who is happy, he who is happy with his lot in life. An interpretation I saw, a beautiful interpretation, Hasumech Bechelko, means who is really happy? The person who is happy with his friend's success, with his neighbor's success. Instead of having jealousy, being happy for somebody else. You're happy for somebody else because you understand that God is giving each of us what we need. Therefore, as we begin this month of happiness, I wish everybody a Chodesh Tov, and I wish everybody the ability to find happiness and satisfaction in everything that God gives to us. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat, and in 2 weeks, God willing, I wish you a happy Purim.